Okay, what else do y'all want to know? Oh, you guys really want to know about my love life. Like, y'all want to know all the tea, if I'm dating, what's going on. Yeah, you guys want to know about the experience of dating in America. So you know what? Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have definitely missed you guys. And we're gonna have a catch up in this video. Yeah, you guys like send me like quite a lot of messages, like DMs, you have comments on like my videos, and you guys want to know all the tea. Like, you want updates, you want to know what's happening in my life, so we're gonna talk about it today. But yeah, I have washed and blow dried my hair, so we're gonna straighten it together. And don't know how it's going to turn out. I have not straightened my hair on camera before, and I don't know how people do it because this screen is tiny, but I do have a mirror that right here, so hopefully that is going to help the process. But yeah, we're going to have a little update, a little yap and straighten. Okay, so I have my straighteners here. They're actually my UK ones. So they're Remington. I think I got these in like Boots like several years ago, like Boots in Bond Street or something. And I have an adapter, otherwise they wouldn't work. So yeah, I'm gonna get these plugged in and then we can start chatting. All right, straighteners are plugged in and I got myself a seltzer. These are just so good. Let's start with my health. So I actually ended up in the ER, so the emergency room, recently. I'm fine, by the way, everything's fine. Okay, I'm just combing out my leave out to start with. I've had asthma since I was about 8, but I have been able to manage it, and I haven't had any issues like since I moved to the US. But yeah, I think we've had like a lot of fluctuations. Oh my gosh, I look crazy. Oh my gosh, guys, this is crazy, but it's fine, everything's fine. Like I said, we haven't done this before on camera, so I've had a lot of fluctuations with the weather. So I woke up, my chest was really tight, it was really wheezy, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? Of course, all of my inhalers had expired because, like I said, like my asthma has been very manageable since I moved here. I've not needed my inhalers in like the last 3 years. Got to the ER, I was seen very quickly, thank the living God. Yeah, they put me on a nebulizer, stabilized my breathing, gave me some inhalers, gave me some steroids, and yeah, I was able to go on my way. But yeah, guys, I'm not gonna lie, like that emergency room experience was definitely something different. I walked in and I was obviously like, I was struggling, my chest was tight, I was wheezing, and yeah, and literally like the receptionist was like, what's your insurance details? And I was like, can we just like get me seen like ASAP? I was like, I literally can't breathe, like I'm wheezing. And they were like, okay, but what's your insurance details? What's your social security number? What's your address? I was like, dang, like, yeah, I think that's just the reality of like medical care in the US. Like obviously we've spoken about this before. Like thankfully, like I said, I've got health insurance. And I was just thinking, like, imagine you didn't have health insurance and you're struggling to breathe, you're going into the hospital and people are asking you a bunch of questions and all you're thinking about is a bill that you're later going to get through the door. Like this is one side of America that is, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I'm still getting to grips with. But yeah, I'm fine, guys, but that's just a little health update. Okay, let's talk about visas and immigration. So I'm on a new visa. So as you guys know, earlier this year I went to London and I moved on to the L1A visa. So because I'd already been on the L1B, they granted the L1A for 5 years. Usually they grant it for 7 years if you don't have an existing visa. So they granted it for 5 years. However, after 2 years, you have to go back to your home country and then renew and explain why you need the remainder of the visa time. So that for me would have been roughly like middle to late next year. So every year my company applies for everybody who's on the L1 visas to get the H1B, and I've spoken to you guys about the H1B before. It's a lottery. There's only 65 or 64,000 slots, but like you know, sometimes there's a few million people applying, so obviously there's no guarantee you're going to get it. But every year my company applies for people on the L1 to get it, and this year, glory to God, I got it. So yeah, so the reason why they wanted me to have it as well, so at the moment there's a lot of scrutiny on immigration. I don't know if you guys are following the news or like following what's been happening since the Trump administration has been in place, but there has been like a lot of scrutiny with immigration. More and more people's visas are getting denied, they're getting denied at the borders, etc. And so rather than me going home, like having to go home next year to extend my L1, the company was like, let's just kickstart the H1B from now. You go onto the H1B now, and then you don't have, and then that's like a 5-year visa, so you don't have to go home anytime soon. With everything the way that it is, it's best for you to kind of avoid having to go to the embassy if possible. So yeah, so that's what we did. Usually what they would do is they would have the H1B, and then if your visa didn't get renewed for any reason, they'll just put you onto that. But like I said, with everything going on now, they were like, let's just get you onto this visa now. I didn't have to go anywhere as well. It was all done like domestically within the US. I didn't have to travel home or anything. I think it started in September, so like it kicked in September. So now I'm now officially on the H1B. Also, speaking about the H1B, again, I don't know how much of the news that you guys follow. I think we are done on this side. Yeah, I don't know how much of the news you guys follow. So basically the White House came out like at some point in September, and they were like, anyone who's on the H1B visa has to pay $100,000 fee. And there wasn't really much clarification around it. So like lots of companies here who have expats on the H1B were just going into a frenzy. They were emailing all of their employees on the H1B and were like, get home now if you're not home. So if you're out of the US right now, get home. And I received one of those emails from my companies. It was really weird. Like it was a Saturday morning, and there was like an email, my work email. It was like, urgent action for H1B employees, get home now. And I was like, what the heck is this? So obviously, and I wasn't even out the country, but it still got me like, like what's happening? So yeah, after reading through, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not out the country, but what does this mean? And I think a lot of people interpreted it to mean that even anybody who's currently on the visa is going to have to pay a $100,000 fee. And so they were worried because they were like, if you're out the country, you may not be able to get back in without paying that fee. So yeah, everyone was just like stressing out. However, the next day, the White House was literally like, everybody calm down. And they sent out clarification, basically saying that this $100,000 fee doesn't apply to anyone who's currently on the visa. It doesn't apply to any renewals of an existing visa. It only applies to new visas, new petitions as of 2026. So, which obviously didn't apply to me or anyone who has the visa right now. But it does mean if a company does apply for their employee to go on the H1B visa, so if they do a petition next year, there's going to be a $100,000 fee. And basically the Trump administration are like, if you're going to be taking American workers' jobs, then you have to justify it. Like it's basically a deterrent. So it's kind of like, if you have to pay this $100,000, you may think twice before offering the role to someone who's not American. So yeah, it was all going on, guys. It was all going on. Okay, so that's the visa update. In terms of like permanent residency, so I don't really have much of an update on that. My company is working through the process. I'm not involved in it. Like I've had to obviously like fill out some forms and, you know, make sure that I qualify for the minimum thresholds and stuff like that. But they're doing everything in the background, so I don't really have any insight into it, and they will let me know when there is more to know. So when there is more to know, I will tell you guys, but it's something that my company is working on in the background. Okay, what else do y'all want to know? Oh, you guys really want to know about my love life. Like, y'all want to know all the tea, if I'm dating, what's going on. Yeah, you guys want to know about the experience of dating in America. So you know what, let's get into it. Okay, so the first question, have I been dating? Yes, I have. What has it been like? Okay. Let's talk about it. So oh, I don't even know where to begin. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what I will start by saying is that I feel like my situation is a bit unique, and that's because so when I was in the UK, like, I didn't really date much. Well, in fact, I hardly dated. There were certain things that I had to go through. There was deliverance that I had to go through. There was healing from a lot of pain, from things from my childhood. There was a lot of idolatry that I had in my life. There was codependency, there was lust, there was perversion. There was a bunch of stuff that was in my heart and things that needed to be worked out. And the Lord was very much like, these things need to be worked out before you get into a relationship. And so, yeah, like, so even though, yes, there were some interests that I had in the UK and there were some guys that I would talk to, it never really got any further because of like this pruning process. Because, yeah, like I said, I was very much like being worked on, and yeah, that was the priority. What I will say is, one, I definitely get attention because of my accent. I will say that. Yeah, sometimes I do get weird DMs. Like, they'll be like, oh, send me a voice note so I can hear your accent. And I'm like, seriously? So yeah, obviously those people get ignored. But yeah, I do get a lot of attention because of my accent. And I just get attention generally. I think there's something about being Black in the South. There's like and I really want to be careful about what I'm saying here, but what I will say is it's quite empowering. Like, it's I feel a lot more seen. I feel a lot more noticed. I feel a lot more appreciated as a Black woman in the South. And so yeah, I don't know what else to tell you guys about dating. I was in a relationship that ended over the summer. It was a very serious relationship, and yeah, I was very much in love with the person. It was a very, very difficult breakup, and is not something that I hope to ever have to go through again. I'm not gonna go into what happened or whatever, but what I will say is that I learned a lot from that relationship. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I want, what the Lord desires for me to have versus the ideas that I had in my head. And yeah, I'm kind of just, there's a lot that I'm not going to take into my next relationship, but there's been a lot of lessons that I've learned about, yeah, like I said, like what the Lord has for me next. And yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I don't know, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to tell you guys about dating. Oh, the men are really good looking here. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, look at me getting excited. So I went to a HBCU homecoming. So if you don't know, in the UK, HBCU is historically Black college and university. So it's like a university when it's just all Black people. And I was invited to a homecoming. Let me tell you, I have never seen so many good-looking men in one place in my entire life. It was like, so it was literally like someone did a roll call and was like, can all the good-looking men make their way to this homecoming? I was like, dang. Okay. So that was a very interesting experience. But yeah, okay, let's move on from that. All right, let's talk about, what should we talk about? Oh, let's talk about dating as a Christian, because that, whew. All right guys, I think we are done with other areas of the hair. Now let's move on to my leave out. Okay. All right, so the Christian experience. Dating, okay, so the South is very much like known as like a Christian place. There are lots of churches here, like whether it's like a Baptist church, a Methodist church, whatever church, non-denominational. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Here you go. Non-denominational, just whatever. So there are lots and lots of churches here. So yeah, like a lot of people consider themselves to be Christian. However, once you start talking to them, you realize that although they may associate with Christianity, they don't necessarily associate with Jesus. Yeah, and so what I mean by that is they're not necessarily submitted to Jesus. They don't have a personal relationship with him. They don't read the Bible. They don't go to church. Or they do go to church, they do read the Bible, but again, they're not submitted to the word of God. So they're not following the principles of the Bible. So where the Bible calls us to live in a certain way, they kind of pick and choose what they like from it and what way they want to live. And yeah. And so as a girly who is fully submitted to Jesus Christ, who fully believes that the Bible is the infallible word of God, it's been a struggle to find somebody of the same, basically. It's basically what I'm saying is, and if you're a Christian, you'll know it's hard to find someone who you're equally yoked with. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the amount of men in my pool is like this big, and so what I mean by that is somebody who A, I'm attracted to because hello, B, like I said, who loves Jesus, is submitted to Jesus, who has a relationship with him, who's going through a process of deliverance, sanctification, everything else. Yeah, it's really, really hard. The other thing that is also hard, now by the way, I'm just saying the reality of this. Do I believe that the Lord has a God-fearing man for me? 100%. I'm just saying it's hard to meet people who you can be equally yoked with. But the Lord, he's the God of the impossible. So he's going to bring me my man. So yeah. And another thing with religion is, and this is another thing that I find with a lot of black men here as well, is that rather than saying that, so they'll say that they're a Christian, but when you start digging deeper, they'll be like, oh, no, I'm spiritual. And then you're like, okay, what does that mean? So then you go down this whole rabbit hole of them talking to you about why they prefer to be spiritual over religious. And this is a very complicated topic. I'm not even going to begin to pretend like I'm qualified to speak on this, but I'll give you a little glimpse. So because of slavery, there were a lot of white slave masters who used Christianity as a weapon. And so, and you can read all about it. They would tear pages from the Bible, and they would basically lie to slaves about Christianity. And so there are still a lot of black people, understandably, who feel like Christianity was weaponized as a white man's religion. And so a lot of black men have reservations about Christianity and submitting to Jesus, because in the past it was kind of, like I said, used as a weapon, and they feel like, why should I submit to a white God? So yeah, complex stuff that I am not even gonna attempt to get into, because like I said, I don't feel like I'm qualified. I am not African American. I don't want to come across like I have an opinion on this, but it's just something that I have experienced. So yeah, not much then. Okay, what else can I tell you guys? Work is going really well. So my job is going exceptionally well. So I got a really, really high performance rating this year. So they do it on a scale of 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, and I got a 4. So I got a really good pay increase. Hey, yeah, which was so good. And then also I also won an award, guys. Like, I won an award. So basically they have this program, and it's for people who have shown outstanding contributions to the asset management industry. So I'm a consultant and I work specifically for wealth and asset management firms. That's who I consult for. And so there are a lot of wealth and asset management firms in America, and it's this program, and you can basically nominate people in your organization. They call them rising stars. So people who have shown an outstanding contribution to the industry, and who show diverse leadership. And yeah, I was nominated by my company, and I won it for my company. So that was like really incredible. Was definitely not expecting that. So I got flued out. Your girl got flown out to New York to accept my award. I also went to a really cool red carpet charity event in New York. I will pop in some pictures here. Yeah, so I'm like doing really well from a corporate perspective. Just generally, I would say, like, in summary, my life here is really good. And I'm not going to say that there aren't pockets of discomfort, but overall, like, I'm genuinely really happy here. I have some really good friends. I have a really good community. Yeah, I'm just living my best American life. Honestly, in summary, I'm living my best American life. And this was one of the best decisions that I ever made, moving here. Hands down. I have a lot of peace here. And I know, like, you guys ask me about it and you're like, oh, like, you know, you tell me about you want to move and stuff like that. But if I'm honest with you, like, I can only talk about it from a Christian perspective. So, like, because I really believe that the Lord called me here, there's a lot of favor that I have, there's a lot of blessings that I have, there's a lot of prosperity that I have, and that is as a result of being in the Lord's will for my life. So I can't say that everyone who moves here is going to have a great experience, because I don't know if this is where you're meant to be or not. But I can say for me, knowing that I am in the place that I'm meant to be, I'm thriving and I'm doing really, really well. The last thing y'all want to know about is, like, politics and, like, what it's been like from a political perspective. I'm sure you guys read the news wherever you are. Yeah, it's been a little bit awkward, not gonna lie, especially around immigration. And you know what, like, so I do call myself an expat. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that I refer to myself as an expat. And I know that not a lot of people may understand why or agree with me or whatever, but, like, when you move with your company, you get a relocation fee. You are able to get a nice apartment. Obviously, I've got my own house now, but when I moved into a really nice apartment. I was able to get a really nice car. I was able to get a pay increase. That's a privilege. Okay, my grandparents emigrated from Jamaica in the 1950s to the UK. They didn't have any of that. They were immigrants. They arrived here to signs that said no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. They had to live in like a tiny 1-bedroom apartment with like 4 kids. So, you know, but they were looking for a better life. And they paved the way for me to be able to make this move. And so I don't ever want to talk about like how hard it is as an immigrant when I moved here in such a luxurious way, you know, compared to people who are coming across the border because they're fleeing from something that is terrible. So I don't ever want to like come across as like someone who is in this immigration struggle when it really was a privileged way that I moved here. So that's why I refer to myself as an expat, because I understand that there's a privilege and there's a difference. But anyway, so yeah, it's definitely been awkward, just to kind of, you know, with what some people have been experiencing and what they've had to go through. And like during the election, it was a really, I'm gonna keep saying awkward. It was a very awkward time, and it was an uncomfortable time, to be honest. It was a very uncomfortable time, and and I felt very uncomfortable at times. I felt uncomfortable for people, and it was yeah, it was different. It was different. I also, during the election, obviously, and as well, because I'm not American, you know, and I'm not a citizen, I don't have the right to vote. So I try to keep my opinions to myself, because how annoying for somebody who can't vote, who isn't from here, to talk about what they think. Like, who cares? So I try to refrain from giving any opinions, at least publicly anyway. Yeah, because it's not, yeah. But I'm just gonna say that it has been an interesting time. Also, guys, during the election, this is something that I've never experienced in a UK election, but I was getting text messages from, like, I don't even know, like weird numbers telling me who to vote for. People being like, if you vote for Kamala, this is what's gonna happen. If you vote for Trump, this is what's gonna happen. It was the weirdest thing. And I've just never experienced that before. You know, I'm of a certain age, and I've been through multiple election processes in the UK, and I have never seen anything like it. Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, guys, I think that is it. That is my life update. I hope I've answered some of your questions in a satisfactory way, but of course, if you have any more questions, like, feel free to drop them below. But yeah, what I will say is, like, yeah, I do genuinely appreciate this platform. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your messages. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your likes. I appreciate your subscriptions. So yeah, if you like my content, as always, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share my content, you know, if you feel like there's somebody else who would like my content, and I will see you guys in my next video.